Hey guys, welcome back. It's Sports with Mono and Mono, and it's May 10th, 2025. Beautiful day here in New Jersey. And of course, I'm here with my esteemed co host, Elijah Weintraub. Eli, how are you today?
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's a little bit of a breezy day today here in Jersey. You got some wind, but that's not the main storyline of today. We have a new pope. We have a lot of stories and sports to talk about, and we're going to cover all that with this all-hour show. Plus, we have a guest, John Randall, joining us at around 10:30 today to talk about some NFL stuff. But first, let's get to the monologue sponsored by Coriano Trucking. Jim, it's all you.
Very good, very good. And yeah, so like as you mentioned, JR is going to be. JR is one of our loyal listeners. And as you know, we have our loyal listeners as guests on the show quite often, and we thank him for that, and we'll bring him on later. So yeah, we're going to start with the monologue, Eli, and there was a big event last week, the Kentucky Derby, which is one of my favorite time of the
Absolutely.
year, and it turned out to be just a great race, and you and I had the horses. We both had sovereign. I had sovereignty. You had journalism, and they finished
Yeah.
1-2.
Yeah, it
Um,
was really good.
but Right. But as far as the monologue goes, I think there's going to be a little air let out of the balloon in the fact that now Sovereignty is not going to be running in the Preakness Stakes. Um, so that takes the Triple Crown potential off the table, which is, I guess, a little bit disappointing for the people that will follow it, just because of the Triple Crown. But I still value the Derby, the Preakness, and of course the Belmont, which will be run at Saratoga this year. Um, but when you have a Kentucky Derby potential, and let's go back a few years, I remember all of these horses: California Chrome, Funny Side, Smarty Jones, Big Brown, Sunday Silence. These are horses that won the first two legs of the Triple Crown. And as we've always said, because the Belmont Stakes is a mile and a half, that's what makes it so difficult to win the Triple Crown. And that's what makes it so amazing. And of course, I always watch the Secretariat win in the Belmont Stakes to capture the Triple Crown back in 1973. One,
Absolutely.
one of my favorite moments in all of sports. So,
Absolutely.
um, little bit disappointed we're not going to have a Triple Crown winner, but we have um, the Belmonts, the Preakness next week, and I think right now, Eli, your horse Journalism is the favorite,
Right.
and rightfully so. He ran a great race, just got edged out by Sovereignty last week, so
Yeah.
um, we'll be watching that, and then of course 3 weeks after that will be the Belmont Stakes run up in Saratoga. So
Yeah. But
disappointed
over
we're not having a Triple Crown, but what can you do, right?
yeah, it was disappointing, but hey, that race was exciting. It came down to the end in the mud, in the rain. These horses battled
Yep.
it out, and the jockeys as well did a fantastic job. And like you said, Sovereignty wins it. Yes, it is disappointing not to see a Triple Crown win, but that's exciting for the Preakness next week because now that means we will have a new horse win the race, whether it be Journalism or another horse, maybe that competed the Kentucky Derby as well. Followed by the Belmont, which happens in June. So this is exciting time as sports fans, especially in horse racing, because we're going to have a brand new winner who we did not see maybe coming possibly for next week. So that makes exciting for next week. The one
Yeah.
bad note about the Kentucky Derby, obviously Mike Tirico was absent during the show, and that
Yeah.
was because he suffered a nut allergy prior to the show starting. So that was some bad news, I guess you could say, for those Kentucky Derby fans who watched the NBC broadcast. But on the brighter note, 21 million people tuned in to watch that Derby. Exciting
Yes.
as it is. We do have a couple comments though. Diego checks in. He says, "Hello, boys." Randy says, "Good morning, gentlemen." And it's also nice that all the horses had the same dad.
Yes. Do you know that? That's an actual fact. Great comment, my friend. They were all descendants of what I brought up before, Secretariat. So, I mean, I've always told you horses are like people, it's genes. That's why Major League Baseball players or football players have sons that follow in their footsteps. Horses are no different. Great point. Great point.
All right, then. Well, let's go to the NBA, which was the biggest storyline of the weekend, the biggest sport of the weekend sports. The reason why?
Yeah.
Go New York, go New York, go. The New York Knicks have a 2-0 lead heading into the Garden for game 3 this afternoon at 3:30 on ABC. They were down 20 points for both these games in the third quarter, and they win by a point. The New York Knicks look to get its win today at the Garden, which is not going to be easy. And this is a must win for the New York Knicks because if they win this game, they're the front runners to win this series. But if they lose, it is possible Boston can come back and just win it because we know how good Boston is
Yep.
on the road. It is going to be a tough test. However, as much as I'm rooting for New York, I think there's too much hype, and I think the Celtics win game 3 today.
Okay. And I feel the same. That remember, these are the defending champs, so they're not going down without a fight.
Absolutely.
But you got to give credit. I mean, the game that Jalen Brunson has been playing, he's clearly the leader of that team, and Mikal Bridges had 2 outstanding defensive plays and scored some points in the second game. So, these are the guys that have to step up for the Knicks if they're going to, keep pace with the Celtics. But yeah, this is a big surprise. I think everybody thought, and I always talked about it because I said the Knicks will win at least 2 games. And if they win 2 games, it's probably going to go 7. So it's
Right.
still a possibility of
It
that.
could, yes, there's a possibility. And I admit, I put the bracket behind me. I had them winning in 7 games in this series because I knew this could be a tough race. But if they do win today, don't be surprised if they win it in either 4 or 5. That's what I think. That's why my hot take
Yep.
is I think that they have a
Yep.
shot. But looking
So
at
that's
last night's
today
game,
yeah.
3:30. It's 3:30 on
Yep.
ABC. But looking at last night's games, though, the Cavaliers took the victory 126-104. They lead the series. Pacers still lead the series, though, 2-1. Game 4 is tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on TNT. And the Nuggets took the victory in overtime over the Thunder, 113-104. The Nuggets lead the series 2-1. Game 4 is tomorrow, 3:30 on ABC.
Yeah. So those are kind of a little bit of a surprise, actually, because Cleveland
Yes.
was dominant throughout the year. But remember, they were missing 3 key players in game 2. So, but they bounced back. Big game for Donovan Mitchell. They get back in the series. That's 2-1. And like you said, the Nuggets and the Thunder, right? The Thunder,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which is another surprise. But remember, Denver has Nikola Jokic
Yes.
on that team.
That was one
and
big
even
part.
though even though he didn't have a great game, he was 0 for 10 last night from the 3-point line, but he's a dominant force. But you also have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the other side for Oklahoma City. And like I said, this is going to be a great series. I fully expect,
Absolutely.
though, that Oklahoma City, with their lineup, I think they're going to end up winning the series. But again,
Yeah,
it's
that's a possibility.
it's one of those, you shouldn't bet against Jokic, just like you shouldn't bet against Patrick Mahomes.
That is absolutely correct. But if you look at these past series and if you look at the round 1 game, it is not a surprise that there's a 2-0 lead heading into game 3. We were not surprised by it. And we knew that by game 3, we're always going to have the other team that gets to win. That's just how it likely goes, and that's how the story usually goes in the NBA. So there's no surprise in what we're seeing here. And yes, I do think that the Thunder will have a good shot at winning this series, and I think they're going to pull the upset around the Nuggets right now, lead 2-1, entering game 4 tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. But the other teams that the other series that's happening tonight, 8:30 on ABC, the Timberwolves and the Warriors battle out in game 3. That series is tied at 1. Why is it tied at 1? Well, game 1, Curry suffered a hamstring injury.
Big
He
loss.
did not play on Thursday. He's likely going to miss tonight, and it's going to be a crucial absence for Golden State. This is not what the Golden State Warriors need, which they have a shot technically. They have a shot at going to the conference. This is a team that they could win. This series is tied, but we'll see if Curry makes a return, but this is not looking good for the Warriors right now.
Right. And you got to think about, who's going to step up for the Warriors. Like guys like Buddy Hield has shown up and he's been scoring a lot of points. And you know what? The big onus really may be on Jimmy Butler to try to fill that void that Curry leaves. And, the game, like I said, Draymond Green, I mean, he's one of 8 players now to have over 1,000 1,000 assists and a
Yep.
1,000 rebounds
Yep.
in the playoffs. So, I mean, like him or dislike him, he's kind of a controversial figure, but he's an outstanding player, and they're going to go down fighting for sure, no doubt.
Absolutely. And the two
Yeah,
other notes in the NBA before we move on to the NHL, the 2024-2025 NBA Executive of the Year is the Thunder's GM, Sam Presti, and the Cavaliers coach, Ken Atkinson, is this year's Coach of the Year winner.
yeah. Kenny Atkinson, former head coach of the Nets, that did a great job. Like I said, you're right, Coach of the Year.
Yeah. And Randy
Good
comments, go
stuff.
Nuggets. But let's go to the NHL.
All right, Eli. This is a very exciting time. I know your Devils are out. My Rangers didn't
Yes,
even
they
make
are.
it, but these series are awesome. The Capitals and the Canes is a great series. Um, and Florida bounces back last night with an overtime victory over the
Yes,
Maple
they did.
Leafs, right?
NBA,
Absolutely great. I think one team that I always keep in the back of my mind. I mean, the Western Conference games have been outstanding as well.
absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Last week's
But
games, they
when
both went game 7, were phenomenal.
exactly, but I always keep in the back of my mind that the best player in the league usually, in most cases, will win a championship. And I still think Connor McDavid is one of the top two or three
Yes.
players in the league. And they were down and they keep fighting back. The combination of him and Draisaitl, very, very powerful. So keep an eye on them. Because they really they got to the finals last year, but it's been pretty exciting to watch them. And McDavid is, like I said, he's a
Yeah,
stud, no doubt.
absolutely. But those game 7s last week were too exciting. And that's what made the NHL really at its peak. A lot of people watched those games. A lot of celebrities interacted really. It was really great to see that happen last week with
Yeah.
game 7. Um right now round 2 has been a little bit of a slump. Yes, there's been some exciting games and stuff, but I don't think it can compete right now with what the NBA is producing, considering with the Knicks, that big storyline, as we mentioned. So right now, I don't think hockey is at its best level right now, what it should be at. But hopefully
Hmm.
by next week, when the NBA begins to die down and we get to see those teams move on, we'll see hopefully a change happen. Um, some other news. So look at the scores as you mentioned. The Panthers, they beat the Maple Leafs in overtime 5-4. Toronto leads the series 2-1. Game 4 is Sunday 7:30 on TBS and True TV. And the last night, the Jets took a 4-0 victory over the Stars. That series now tied at 1. Game 3 is tomorrow 4:30 on TBS and True TV. But yeah, that was a big
And
surprise there too. Winnipeg is still in it. The President's Trophy winner is still in it, and they played great hockey last night, 4-0.
I was just going to bring that up because I know you believe in the
I
President's
still
Cup
believe in the
pick.
curse
So,
though. So even if they win next round, they could still get knocked out in the conference. Just want to point that out.
yep. I knew that you were going to bring that up, so I was going to bring it up too. But I'm
Absolutely.
kind of pulling for the Jets because I wanted to spell the President's Cup curse once and for all. But
Well, yeah, because the Rangers didn't get it. I understand how you feel.
yeah,
Uh,
no doubt.
but other games happening tonight at 6 o'clock on TNT and True TV. The Capitals, they are at the Hurricanes for game number 3. That series is tied at 1. Tonight at 9 o'clock on TNT and True TV, the Golden Knights are at the Oilers for game number 3. The Oilers lead 2-0 in that series.
Yep. Yep.
Some other hockey news. The New York Islanders have the first overall pick in this year's draft. During the live lottery drawing, all 4 numbers appeared. Here are the numbers that won it for them. You might want to play them in tonight's lottery. 7, 11, 12, and 13. Those are your winning numbers for the lottery for the Islanders. And like that, they have the number 1 pick. The Sharks have the 2nd pick in this year's draft. What an exciting moment for Islanders fans. I was watching the lottery and I was like, holy cow, the Islanders just won the draft. Literally, that was
And
insane.
and it's funny because the Islanders, they had like a 3% chance of
Right.
actually
And they were at
winning
the
that.
13th spot. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. And meanwhile, other news in the NHL, the Devils have announced that they will not be renewing Ryan McGill and Chris Taylor's contracts. Both are assistant coaches. They will also not be renewing head video coach Jerry Deneen and Utica assistant coach David Kunev's contracts. They have announced. The
Yeah.
Kings have and VP and general manager Rob Blake have parted ways. And the new name for the Utah hockey team will now be the Utah Mammoth. They announced that after the fan voting, after the announcement was made. They've released the logo and the new name. The Utah Hockey Club will now become the Utah Mammoth. Pretty
Yeah,
exciting.
and
Mammoth, mammoth, mammoth.
a couple other notes. So the Rangers introduced their new coach. It's their third
Yes,
coach in like 3 years or 4 years or whatever it
yes,
may be. So and Joel Quenneville, one of the all-time winningest coaches, had kind of was suspended by the league for that Blackhawk scandal a couple of
yes.
years back. He lands a job. I forgot who hired him. Do you remember?
Oh,
Forgot.
wow. I don't know on the top of my head.
I didn't think they would bring him back
If you
because of
guys know in the
the
comments, let us know. If feel free to
yeah.
keep on commenting. We love these comments. Randy also comments, "Go Caps!" Abe and the Caps.
What a tough series that is. I
That
mean,
is tough.
and I'm gonna give credit to this guy because Tom Wilson, when he first came up, he was kind of the bully, the fighter, and
Yeah.
so forth. But he has turned into an outstanding hockey player. Very similar when Craig Berube came up with the Flyers, he had to fight everybody, biggest guy, and um, but he became a hockey player at some point in time. And Tom Wilson has completely turned it around.
Yeah, he
Yes,
did.
he's Ovechkin's bodyguard, and everybody has to have that. But he really is a key player on that team, and this is one physical series. Great.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Uh, with that, I think we're gonna go to the MLB and then we'll talk some golf.
Okay. So Um, I think we're pretty clear now. Aaron Judge is not going to hit 400. I mean, he
No.
was off to this torrid start, and but the Yankees, they're hanging in there. I think this is going to be one of those up and down seasons, and certain guys are going to have to step up at times if Judge goes into a slump or whatever. But right now, if you look at the job Max Fried has done, what a great free agent signing that was.
Yeah.
Um, and believe it or not, even Carlos Rodon has pitched a few uh, three really good games in a row. I looked at his career stats, and I still always scratch my head about the contract that he signed with the Yankees because
Oh yeah.
his career stats, he had two really really good years, but out of that, the rest of it was just kind of mediocre. But with
Absolutely.
the Yankees, you have Jason Dominguez hit 3 home runs to become the youngest player in New York Yankees history to hit 3 home runs in a game. That was exciting.
Wow, that is exciting indeed. Yeah.
And how about the Mets, though? The Mets are really playing good baseball. It seems like the Mets are home all the time, but
Yeah, pretty much.
uh,
That's what it seems like. Yeah.
it's their best start at home since the 1986 team. And we know what happened then. They won the World Series. How about that?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And guess what? The $700 million man is starting to wake up, but, they're all clicking on all cylinders with Alonso, and Lindor is on fire, and
Yep.
Soto's starting to heat up. So,
This is
this isn't
exciting.
just a flash in the pan for the Mets. They're a legitimate team right now.
They are, and they're playing pretty good baseball. But as I mentioned, it's early. It's a roller coaster ride in the MLB. Anything could happen. But the
Sure
one big
is.
storyline from the MLB this week: the Pirates have fired manager Derek Shelton. Don Kelly now becomes the manager, and that is due to the low standing start. They enter at 13-26 as of today. So that is the ultimate reason why he was let go. One
Well,
comment coming in from Martin. He says, sitting in the rafters of the Bryce Jr. Center at PSU, business school graduation, listening in stealth mode. Morning, gents. Well,
good
congratulations on the
morning.
graduation, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and Martin, I'm sure is probably going to the truest uh, golf tournament today in the Philadelphia Cricket Club. I would assume sometime.
Well, yeah,
That's the
after
precursor.
graduation, I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the precursor to the PGA Championship, which we can talk about in a little bit. That's coming up at Quail Hollow next week, and we'll talk about that. Actually, we can cover it right now and basically say Scotty Scheffler and Justin Thomas are probably the one of the
Yeah,
two is going to win. They're playing at
yeah,
their peak performance. So
yes.
um,
So let's go to golf talk. Go ahead.
yeah, so it's back on. Um, they changed the. It used to always be the Masters, the U.S. Open, the British Open, and then the PGA was always the final. So they've moved that
Yes.
around a little bit. But what about this performance by Scotty Scheffler last week? Minus 31 under par. I
Yeah.
mean, either he's that good, or the courses are not as tough as they once were, or the technology is much, much better. But you can't deny this guy is the undisputed number one player in the world. So he's going to be out there, and I'm going to take him or Justin Thomas to win the PGA Championship, second major of the year.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a fair one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really a reach.
Yeah. Well,
Uh, did we wrap up on baseball? Because I
yes,
just
we
wanted,
did.
I had a
If you want to
couple
go
of
back to
quick
we can.
things.
Yes.
Yeah, I just recall. So in the news, this Rafael Devers situation in Boston is kind of. I mean, they paid him this guy a lot of money, and he didn't want to move off third base. Became the DH. Now they want him to play first base. He says no way. I mean, it, if you're a team player, you play wherever your team needs you, and that's the kind of character that is gonna rot in the Boston Red Sox locker room throughout the course of the year. I think that's gonna be a problem for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and by the way, Yamamoto for the Dodgers, who had this unbelievable .9 ERA, finally he got rocked the other day, so his ERA skyrocketed to like 1.3 or something. So what
Yeah.
a dominant pitcher he was. What a find for them. And with the lineup the Dodgers have, wow. I mean,
It's
and
exciting, isn't
that
it?
kind of pitching,
It really is.
hard to pick against them.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Eli. So as you brought up, we're going to have a little guest on our show.
Yes.
We're going to
He's
talk
here
about
now.
the
So if you're
NFL.
ready.
Like I said, it's kind of a bring him on.
All right. Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you for doing this, Jim.
Okay. Just so you know, this is one of our listeners, JR, named John Randall, and I'm glad he's going to be joining the show. We seem to have a little bit of a technical glitch, but he should be joining us in a moment. There he is. JR, how are you, kid?
Good. How are you?
We're
Thank you for
doing
doing
good.
this,
Thanks
Jim.
for joining us.
Thank you for doing this,
We're
Jim.
glad to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be
As a
on the
loyal
show.
listener, great, awesome. Welcome aboard. Hey, so first, let me ask you this: how did you come about Sports with Mono and Mono and become a loyal listener?
I just enjoy sports, and I've always enjoyed sports. So anything to do with sports, I've always enjoyed it. Podcasts, things, and I actually want to become a sports commentator when I get older and work with my buddy Jack, which I don't know if you know who that is because Eli worked with him, but
Yep,
I've
I
always
know
enjoyed
Jack. Yep,
sports, and that's just been my passion. So that's why I started listening to you guys.
good. Because I know that Eli mentioned you guys ran into each other at your broadcasting camp and stuff. So you're doing all the right things. And at some point when you get yourself settled in and you have your own show, we'll be watching that as well.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm working on it.
All right. That's
Good.
great. Let's talk some NFL. One of the biggest storylines of this week was George Pickens. He is off to the Dallas Cowboys in a trade with the Steelers in exchange for some draft picks. JR, what are your thoughts about George Pickens on his way to Dallas? That is a pretty big a trade that happened this week.
I think it's pretty phenomenal that CD and George are going to be working together, and I'm very excited to see how the offense is going to work with him in it. I think that now it makes the Cowboys a playoff contender, possibly. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
a
but you
Super
have
Bowl
to.
contender.
Yep. Yeah, you have to keep in mind though, this George Pickens, he's kind of a like a volcano and he erupts at times. So you got to have
Yeah.
a character is a big part of success in the NFL. And maybe the situation in Pittsburgh wasn't for him or whatever, and he moves on to Dallas. And yeah, that's quite a combo that the Cowboys have. But I wanted to ask you this, Jr. So you're a Jacksonville Jaguars. Give us the history of why you're a Jaguars fan.
So it's funny you mentioned that because a friend of my family's, is actually a Jaguars fan. He grew up in Jacksonville, and he got me into liking them so much. So that's how I became a Jaguars fan.
Good. So what did you make of their big move on draft day to get a little playmate for Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter? What were your thoughts, and are you happy with it?
I am very happy with the pick for the first round. I think if you think about it, in his career, in his college career, he had 149 receptions, 1,820 receiving yards, and 19 touchdowns in his college career.
Yeah, pretty good.
So it's definitely going to open up the offense for Trevor Lawrence, and we're gonna score a lot of points.
JR, are you a believer that Trevor Lawrence is that type of quarterback that could take you guys to the next level, or are you disappointed in his first 4 years in the league? What's your take on it? I was absolutely all on board that he should have been the number one pick, and he was. I just don't know that he's lived up to the promise. What is your thoughts being a Jaguars fan?
I mean, if you think about it, he's got several coaches that finally he had several coaches in his first 4 years, so he hasn't really had a stable coaching staff to
Mm-hmm.
to get in, and then he's got injuries. So I still think he can take us to the next level, but it's just a matter of having the right people in place to be able to do that.
Okay, well, as you know, Eli is a Seahawks fan. I'm a Giants fan, so I think both of us were satisfied with the draft. So
Yeah, we were
we
very
got three
satisfied.
guys on. Yeah, go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, we were both very satisfied. I mean, we did exactly what we need to do Seattle and got offensive line work, and that was the biggest key for Seattle. And I know Giants the first round was awesome for you guys. I mean, you got a quarterback, you got Abdul Carter, that was awesome. Like,
Yeah,
what else could you guys ask for as a Giants perspective? Um, but another big note in the NFL, though, I want to bring up the Ravens. They released Justin Tucker due to inappropriate behavior, uh, both in and out of the locker room. So that ultimately led him to getting released. I understand that this is what had to be done, but I think this might ultimately hurt the Ravens at the end of the day because he was a big factor to this Ravens team in kicking. But I understand the reason why. Don't get me wrong, but I think he was one heck of a player and really helped make this Ravens team a team that it should be.
yeah. Well, they did classify it as a football decision, which, as
Yes,
we know, that's
that's
far
how it
from the
usually
truth.
goes.
But yeah,
Yes, but yeah. JR, what did you think about that?
I think it was the right move for the Ravens because that could have been a PR nightmare.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, the Ravens are in a sticky situation with Justin Tucker, and he's being investigated by the NFL. So I wouldn't have kept him on the team anyways. I would have just let him stay let him um, stay off the team because you don't know if he may get suspended. He may get an indefinite ban. We don't know what the punishment's going to be from the NFL.
you're
Yeah,
right. You're right.
absolutely.
But,
The three of good.
go ahead. But JR, so listen, I brought this on. This is JR as well. I had it downstairs. I said, "Oh, JR's coming on the show. I'll bring the other JR on the show."
That's pretty funny.
So give us your preview this year coming up in the NFL. JR, who are the best teams? Is it the year the Bills can finally get over the hump, or is it a continuation of the Mahomes domination and those kind of things?
It's funny you mention that because I think the Eagles are definitely. It was definitely a surprise when they won the Super Bowl last year, and I think the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL. But I wouldn't sleep on the Commanders as well. I think the Commanders, Eagles, Lions are the best teams in the NFC. Or some of the best teams in the NFC. Then I think for the AFC, I think the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. I think they're all pretty good contenders. And I think that a lot of people are going to be surprised because I think this year is going to be a big step for the Jaguars as well, as far as their offense wise. And I think their offense, if they can score as many points as I think they can with Brian Thomas Jr. and all the wide receivers they have, then you just need a little bit of help from your defense and you should be fine. Now, do I think the Jaguars will go to the Super Bowl? No, but
Either do I.
Yeah.
That's just a pipe dream. But I think it's possible that we could go from worst to first in the division because a lot of the teams aren't. There's not a lot of teams really good in our division right now. It's kind of wide open.
Yeah.
Well, as we talk about the NFL, and again, Eli and I have talked about it many, many times. Every single thing that goes on in the NFL is a revenue generator. Right now,
Absolutely.
we had the draft, and now they're going to have a whole primetime special on the scheduling of next season. So
you could just post it on the website. We could all just check it out the next day. But you know what? Let's just make a 5-hour show out of the deal, right?
Yeah,
that's what we want.
The NFL has their way of doing things,
Absolutely.
They certainly do. They certainly do. So, JR, listen, we really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us your thoughts. And I knew you were going to be ecstatic over the Travis Hunter picture. I just thought I'd ask anyway. But tell your friends to join in, let them see your appearance on the show, and continued success on your journey to your broadcasting career. And, once you get your show, let us know because you're a loyal listener to our show and we would be a loyal listener to yours.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. Appreciate you doing this, Jim. And nice to finally put a name to a face and finally meet you.
You bet. It's been our pleasure to have you on. And thanks for Eli for setting it up. Yes. And you have a great Sunday and happy Mother's Day to your mother and so forth. All right, my friend?
All right.
All right. Thank you, John.
You're welcome, Eli.
All right. Well, that was John. Thank you for joining. And with that, we have a couple comments actually. First, what do you think about the Commanders going back to DC?
Well, listen, I mean, that's kind of where the Washington his story is,
really all started.
Yeah. It is just an absolute amazing transformation of getting rid of that Daniel Snyder and the development of the Redskins, and they're going to bring it back to the city of DC. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. And it just goes to show you when you have like a lousy owner, it just tarnishes the franchise. And he was absolutely a joke. And I'm delighted that ultimately they'll be back in DC, man.
Yeah. And Danny, Junior Randall, Michael Garvey, all check in. Both say hello.
Hi, guys. Thanks very much. But Eli, it was great to have JR. I know he was part of your broadcasting camp and so forth. So, like I said, we love to have our loyal listeners. And like I said, you and I talked before the show. We had a great week and everything's getting, picked up and things have been really, really good. So I'm glad we had him on today.
All right.
All right,
let's
Eli,
go down to some random points.
You got it.
That is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut.
Go first, my friend.
All right. Well, Habemus Papam, we have a pope. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost became the 267th pope and the first American pope, taking the name Leo XIV or XIV. He was born in Chicago and was a part of the missionary and cardinal in Peru, He studied at the University of Villanova. That's right, a Big East win, my friends. And yes, he graduated with a math major and math degree. He is a White Sox fan, and he knew since day one that he wanted to be a priest, as he used to do, play pretend mass. So
Yeah.
that's exciting for us here in the United States to have somebody from the United States represent the Catholic world as a pope. So pretty exciting.
Yeah,
There.
I think they tried to pay make it appear as though he was a Chicago Cubs fan, and he
Yes,
says,
they
"I'm
did.
not."
Yes,
I'm
they did. Yes.
yeah,
That
right.
was exciting too. The Walt Disney Company has announced that they'll be building its seventh theme park in Abu Dhabi. It will be the most technologically advanced Disney park ever. No timeline yet of when it will be complete, but it's on its way to Abu Dhabi. Um, the WNBA regular season begins this Friday, May 16th. The three games are on Ion, two on locally at 7:30. Atlanta and Washington, and Minnesota versus Dallas, and at 10 o'clock, LA versus the Golden State Valkyries. This will be the Valkyries' first ever WNBA game and the first of three WNBA teams in the course of this year and next year into the program part of its expansion. More games ahead, including Saturday, which will feature the New York Liberty. We will talk more about the New York Liberty and what to expect in WNBA next week on the show, but we want to give you the preview that it does kick off this Friday for the WNBA.
It's amazing because it just seems like the WNBA championships or last season ended about a few weeks ago, and then
Yeah,
in between that we had Paige Beckers coming into the league as the new quote unquote Caitlin Clark type of player,
yeah.
impact
And now here
player,
we are.
and it's wow, what a quick season that was. Wow.
Absolutely. Frankie chimes in first before I go on. Good morning. My Thunder are letting me down. I also never want to hear Jokic doesn't have a supporting cast. Murray, Gordon, and MPJ are playing great.
Listen, Frankie, I'm with you that the Thunder, um, they're down in the series right now, but like I said, don't worry. I think they got a much more dynamic team, and I pointed out was that having Jokic on there, and yes, he does have a surrounding cast, but I still think the Thunder are going to prevail in the series.
Yeah.
So hang in there.
Couple other notes: the Savannah Bananas are on ESPN2, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus tonight at 7 o'clock. If you are interested in watching that, the Panthers have released Jadavon Clowney, and Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert agrees to rework his contract for the 2025 season. And finally, the 2027 NFL Draft will be coming to Washington D.C. Next year's draft will be in Pittsburgh, and that's what I
Yeah.
got for your random points.
Yeah, I actually meant to bring up that Jadavian Clowney was released. He was the number one pick in the 2014 draft. Had a couple, had some very good seasons, but overall, when you think about the number one pick in the draft, I don't know that he had the impact that you would always expect from the first player in the draft. But he's had a
Yes.
serviceable career, and you know what? He's still, I know, he's still out in his early 30s, so
He's
he'll
got
land
time.
with somebody else. He'll land with
All
somebody.
right. But yeah, go for it, Jim.
Okay. Sticking with a little bit of football. So Scott Frost goes back to the University of Central Florida, who he was the coach, had an undefeated team, and then took the Nebraska job, which is highly coveted. But he was an alumni there, former quarterback. Didn't have success there, got fired. Now he ends up back at UCF with a 5-year, $22 million contract. Talk about second chances, Eli, right? I mean, amazing.
Absolutely.
A couple other points. I was looking. We were talking about Major League Baseball players, and was having a conversation about people are hitting 240, and it's almost acceptable compared to when I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. That was kind of, well, that's not really adequate enough. But I did see. Took an example, Joey Gallo. Remember, he came to the Yankees and didn't have any success, but he's a lifetime 194 hitter, and he's been in this league for 10 years. How does that happen? How does that happen?
I don't even know. Wow.
I mean, is that unbelievable?
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
amazing.
well below the Mendoza line, well below.
Wow.
And Eli, sometimes I was kind of laughing. I don't know. This may offend some of our cornhole loyal listeners, but
Here
on
we go. This would be
ESPN they
great.
had the cornhole championships, and I just I don't know. Maybe it's just a parking lot game at a football tailgate, I guess. But
Hey, but you know
they
what?
made this sound like this was, oh, this is the Wayne Gretzky of cornholes, and I started laughing. But that meant absolutely nothing else was on television. Nothing.
Well, that's number one. And number two, that's exciting. Number one, to see that's cornhole. And listen, anything that goes on ESPN is considered a sport. Apparently, spelling is a sport because they used to have the spelling bee on ESPN. So yeah, spelling was a sport. So if you think about it, everything you could possibly think of that's on ESPN is like a true major sport. So yeah, not just a parking lot game or an in-classroom game. That's for sure.
Okay. All right. So those are my random points of interest for the week.
And now it's time for the entertainment and photo segment. That is sponsored by Vital Selections. You can scan the QR code to learn more.
Yeah. So I got a couple of movies I wanted to recommend. And as you brought up, we had the new Pope and all that kind of stuff. So I did watch the movie Conclave, and it was a very good movie, actually.
Yeah, and it's on my list. I have to watch it. But yeah,
Yeah, Ralph Fiennes did a great job. Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow it was kind of it really was a pretty decent. Maybe the ending got a little
yeah,
beyond, I think, or a little Hollywoodish, but
that's what I heard. But
it's not a bad movie. But
yeah, we have
I
to watch
do
it.
also have another movie. It's kind of a fun movie. It's called 3,000 Miles to Graceland. And as you know, I'm a big Elvis Presley fan, and this was
Absolutely.
Kurt Russell and Kevin Costner and all Elvis impersonators, trying to pull off a heist in a hotel. And it's one of those movies it's kind of so silly that it's pretty good and worth watching. 3,000
Wow.
Miles to Graceland.
Well, SNL is all new tonight with Walton Goggins as your host, Goggins as your host, and Arcade Fire as your musical guest. And The
Right?
Price is Right at night returns on Monday at 8 o'clock on CBS. You know I'll be watching since I can't
I
watch
know
during the
you will.
daytime. I'm gonna be watching that, so watch that. And let's get to some photos.
Okay. I got a couple of photos. So last week, like I said, after the show, that's why we moved it to early. Um, that's me with my two daughters and my granddaughter at her first communion. And
Excellent.
yeah, isn't it a beautiful picture? She's such a sweet
Yes.
kid. It was
All right.
great. And I know this is strange, but I wanted to bring this up because tomorrow is Mother's Day, and that's a picture of my rose bush. And last weekend was my mother's birthday, and out of all of that whole big bush, one rose bloomed, and it almost felt like it was destiny and meant for my mother. It was kind of a strange
That's great.
phenomenon, but very, very
Although
fitting.
it's
And
great and
mhm,
and like all these flowers and stuff, it brings too much pollen. I just want to say,
I know,
and,
I know.
and really, the allergies been really bad lately. No, that's not
And
against the flowers, just everywhere.
I know. And the last picture that we had, you just had, and that was
Yep.
sent to us by one of our listeners, Jay Costello. That's the Saratoga battlefield up in Saratoga Springs.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
I'm a big history guy, and I've been there several times. It's just a magical place to drive around, and you have all of these informational things. So I like history and the military and all those kind of things. So I
Pretty
thought I'd
cool.
bring that up. Yeah.
All right. Well, we do have some notable passings, unfortunately.
Yes, we do.
So I'll
We
let
do.
you start first, and then I'll go on if you missed any.
Okay. So, notable passing. So, one actor, Charles Scalise, 84. And a lot of people don't know the name, but it's one of those actors that you see. He actually played Tony Soprano's high school football coach in like a flashback scene on The Sopranos. And he was also Horseface in the TV series The Wire on
Okay.
HBO. So, you would recognize the face, maybe not the name. A couple other ones that came up. Chet Lemon, former Major League Baseball player. And I remember Chet Lemon. He actually won a World Series with the Detroit Tigers in 1984. Had a pretty decent career, 275 hitter, hit 200 home runs. And he was only 70 years old. But,
Pretty exciting.
that was a notable passing from the world of Major League Baseball. And from the world of golf. And I'm sure a lot of people don't remember Jim Dent, but I remember Jim Dent. He was one of the premier black golfers in on the PGA Tour back in the 70s. And He was considered one of the longest hitters on tour, and unfortunately, he never won on the tour. But then when he went to the seniors tour, he won. Let me see how many times he won. 12 times on the
Wow.
tournament, the Champions Tour. So
Yeah.
he was one of those pioneers in the game of golf and well respected. He was 85 years old, but I certainly remember Jim Dent playing.
All right.
Unfortunately, never played in the Masters though. Never qualified. And just one last one in the
Okay. And I have a couple
we
more.
we had Supreme Court Justice David Souter passed
Yep.
away, former Supreme Court justice. He was 85 years old, and yeah, that's who I covered, Eli.
I got two more. Kevin Thomas from the NBA on TNT / Inside the NBA. He was a
Mhm.
stagehand for the show. Has sadly passed away at a young age. He was born in 1955.
Mm.
And finally, Ruth Buzzy, who has passed away at the age of 88. She was known for playing Mama Bear in the Berenstain Bears, that cartoon show. She was born in 1936. One of her many shows that she took part of.
Well, I think one of her most famous roles was on this TV series Laughing. She was the old
Yes.
lady that beat everybody up with her pocketbook.
Yeah.
I thought I brought her up last week. Maybe I forgot to. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well,
it's funny.
either way, we hope all the mothers out there have a happy Mother's Day. And what a great show it was today. We covered a lot, and we want to thank, of course, John Randall for joining us today.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week at 10 o'clock with more of Sports with Mono and Mono.
Yes, and I wanted to echo that thought and send a happy Mother's Day, Eli, to your mom
Yes.
in particular, and everybody else's mother out there. Um, I miss my mother terribly. And one last thing before we sign off again, as I brought up last week, my brother Steve could use your thoughts and prayers. And like I said, he's very dear to us, very dear to the show, and he's still fighting away. So I appreciate all the thoughts and prayers that have come in. Um, and I'm hopefully I'm going to actually go see him this afternoon. So I'm excited about that. So,
That's great.
but yeah, it was a great show today, Eli, and it was really nice having one of your broadcasting camp guys on, and he was a nice young man, and we got a lot of things. And thanks for all the comments that came in, and we will be back next week at the same time. And
Yes, indeed.
like I said, tell a friend, and
Make sure to like and
you
subscribe.
could be on the show at some point.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
Not
almost like
absolutely.
funny videos, America's Funniest Home Videos, where they say, send your video to me, get yourself on TV. Say thanks in the comment. Maybe you could get yourself on Sports
I
with Mono
know.
Water.
Good.
Eric, comments before we go. Good morning. Best to Steve.
Thank you, Eric. And I know that's genuine. And he's a fellow St. Joe's guy. So always said the St. Joe's family always pulls together at times like this. And Eric is no different. That's why he's one of my dear friends. And I appreciate his thoughts. So, all right,
right, then.
Eli, you're wrapping up. Your last week of school's coming up, right?
Yeah, we'll talk more about that next week. But yeah, it's
Okay.
coming down to the wire. But have a great Saturday, everybody. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you all next Saturday.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.